When found again, they had clearly completed the encirclement of him. Claire was suddenly shocked at the words. She immediately ordered everyone to be on high alert and ready for battle. In this underground labyrinth, potential enemies are not just monsters. It is very common for all kinds of monsters to kill each other in the labyrinth. Just went through a battle. The team members are all exhausted. Moreover, the opponents are not only full of energy, but also have more people. The current situation is very unfavorable for Jim and the others. At this time, Claire looked at Jim with a serious expression. If something goes wrong later, can I leave the decision-making to you? Okay, with me here, you can relax. Immediately, everyone lined up. They wanted to see what tricks the other side was up to. It was not just one guy with a head full of red hair. He swaggered over with a large group of people surrounding him. Claire, we haven't seen each other for a while. I thought you were killed by the infernal spider. After you finish your nonsense, please leave on your own. I didn't expect this person, Claire, to know you. So Jim quietly asked Leo about his identity. He belongs to an organization called Exploration Association. However, it has a very poor reputation. In plain terms, this is just a group that blocks doors and charges fees. They are troublemakers who incite violent incidents. After hearing Leo's description, Jim's favorable impression of the team before him instantly plummeted to the lowest point. His right eye unexpectedly lit up with a red glow on its own, starting to scan and assess the opponent's strength. There are approximately 40 people on the opposite side, including 9 labyrinth babies. His strength is slightly stronger than others. The rest are all around level 6. Moreover, judging from the stern expressions and imposing manner of the opponents, they seem to be a group of battle-hardened warriors accustomed to killing. If the two sides were to really fight, our side would definitely have no chance of winning. Thinking of this, Jim's mood inexplicably became irritable. A strong sense of killing intent cannot help but burst and spread from his body. The man was originally a strong individual in the underground labyrinth, accustomed to killing with his special ability. In his hands, he controls a mysterious Garo labyrinth. Under his rule, he has many brave and skilled Garo people. But managing such a vast labyrinth nearly depleted all his savings. He had to go out to take on some odd jobs to earn extra income. Now he is pretending to be a newcomer, hiding behind others, and acting like a curious baby. But as Jim's mood became more irritable, a strong murderous intent unconsciously permeated through his body. However, this murderous intent made Claire and Leo, who were unaware of it, suddenly feel a chill down their spines as if they had fallen into an ice cave. Under the shroud of this murderous intent, they couldn't muster any feeling of resistance. Their whole bodies froze in place. Claire's face turned instantly pale, with no trace of color. The sudden change in emotions was naturally noticed by Mateo, mistakenly thinking that Claire was afraid of him. I can't stand that innocent look on your face. I can't believe it's only been a short time since we last met. How did I discover that you've become strange? You have become quite lovely. This nearly made Claire draw her sword and fight him to the death. Unexpectedly, she was held back by the wise and mature Leo, indicating to her to stay calm and not start a conflict. But Mateo seemed unappreciative. He continued to talk on and on. We originally discovered that you were being attacked by monsters and intended to come to your aid. However, it seems that you do not welcome us. He then threw a wink at Claire, thinking it was cool. Claire was indeed embarrassed to the point that her face turned green, with bulging veins. Who would have thought that Mateo suddenly turned to look at Jim and said, "You look good. If you are interested in making more money, come and work with me." However, Jim rejected straight away without even thinking about it. You don't have to reject me so decisively. Go back and think about it before giving me an answer. Saying this, he led his troops to withdraw. How does this big brother feel? Is he here to declare sovereignty in a show of force? Mateo tried to steal a march on me in person. Claire almost couldn't control her short fuse. But the situation was stronger than people, plus Leo's dissuasion. She managed to restrain herself again this time. At the same time, Leo, worried about sparking another conflict, quickly changed the subject. He turned and asked Jim, "How can you be so calm? Do you already have a plan?" The Jim who was asked looked dumbfounded at this moment. I just broke out in a cold sweat. I have never felt such a strong desire to kill in my life. Leo's words were immediately endorsed by Claire. I felt the same way at that time. It's like the king of the labyrinth standing right behind me. Their conversation left Nolan and the yellow-haired man puzzled. Leo, seeing this, explained, "You two have experienced too little killing. This invisible killing intent can only be perceived after experiencing life and death multiple times." Suddenly Jim curiously asked about Claire and Mateo's affair. I can't believe the intense gossip fire burning within him. Sure enough, this question has triggered Claire's annoyance again. It turns out Mateo and Claire have known each other since they were young. They were babies living on the same level of the labyrinth. At that time, Mateo was brave and ambitious, embodying leadership qualities. However, after escaping back to the surface, he tasted the sweetness of freedom and money. He changed completely. Some people, once they have changed, can never go back. Claire has many emotions when talking about this. What just happened made Claire realize that they have caught Mateo's attention. Although there hasn't been a conflict yet, based on her understanding of Mateo. This person will definitely engage in some scheming behind our backs. So she decided to give up and continue with the plan to explore the 6th floor. After all, they did gain something along the way. After cleaning up the battlefield here, she ordered a return along the original path. The entire return journey took about a week before they walked out of the labyrinth. After selling the items, everyone joyfully received generous rewards. After bidding farewell to Claire, Jim turned around and immediately went to Swindler Old Man to inquire about Mateo's situation. Swindler is also considered an industry insider. Naturally, he knows some inside information. In fact, there is quite a controversy surrounding Mateo among people in the industry. He uses the name of the Exploration Association to directly restrict and control the underground labyrinth. At the same time, he has set the minimum level requirement for the labyrinth babies. This measure has greatly increased the survival rate of ordinary adventurers. You know, no one used to manage it before. Anyone could come and go from the labyrinth at will. The survival rate of exploration teams was only 20%. So currently, public opinion seems to lean towards Exploration Association taking control of the underground labyrinth. In addition, the swindler has given another piece of information. Recently, there is a group claiming to be human hunters. They are committing murders and atrocities inside the labyrinth. These bastards are all masked and have ground their teeth as sharp as sharks. Some of them may come from the depths of the labyrinth, and their strength should not be underestimated. He warned Jim that it's best to deter if encountering this group of people. Jim inquired about the news in Swindler, and then waved goodbye and left. In the end, he told Swindler that this time, there was no gem to be offered. Swindler felt quite stunned that he had been freeloaded. Inside Garo Labyrinth, behind Domi, a spatial crack opens. Jim walks out slowly from the crack. "Master, you're back just in time. A guest has arrived at the bar. I was just about to go meet him." This makes Jim very puzzled that there are guests visiting again. The visitor is an elf mercenary, whom Domi has contacted before. But she felt that the other party lacks both loyalty and honor. Upon hearing this, Jim couldn't help but furrow his brows. If that's the case, why not send him away? Why keep him in Labyrinth? Domi, on the other hand, was hesitant and stuttered. It took him a long time to finally give the reason. It's because the Garo Labyrinth really lacks someone who is good at investigation. Although Garo Archer has extremely strong vision. However, their muscular build is not suitable for the role of a scout. Therefore, the mapping of the area around the labyrinth was delayed. Understanding the whole story, Jim decided to personally meet the elf and the two of them walked into the bar together. No need to mention sitting in the corner of the bar, cloaked figure. He is the person they are looking for. The man noticed Jim approaching him and hurriedly got up to bow. She simultaneously pushed off her heavy cloak. She revealed a head full of silver-gray hair. The most attractive feature was her pointed elf ears. The man was once the first guest to arrive at the house. The mysterious potion he brought. He then transformed into this terrifying and horrifying appearance. But now, there is another strange guest who has mysteriously arrived at home. What kind of changes will this bring to him again? Jim quietly observes the vigilant elf in front of him. The elf does not hesitate. Her direct gaze was considered by Domi to be an unreasonable offense. He immediately rebuked her angrily. However, Elf's eyes remained indifferent. She calmly glanced at Domi. But the next second, she unexpectedly lowered her head, lowered her eyes, and knelt down. She recited in her mouth, "The only master of the throne, who can see through the dark veil. Please forgive me, this humble underground wanderer. I entered your darkness without permission. Requesting that you grant me this great honor, let me present the name of this worthless wanderer to the great master of the throne." This sentence made Jim's scalp tingle. After tolerating and giving her a response, Elf then continued to speak. "Humble me. I am an elf mercenary named Lisa, wandering in the underground labyrinth." I never expected Jim's eyes to suddenly turn cold and full of killing intent. "Well done, Lisa, but I want to tell you that even though we are so close, you won't be able to stab me with the dagger hidden in your cloak." Domi, who was beside them, was suddenly startled and immediately spoke out in a rebuking tone. Unexpectedly, before the words were finished, they were interrupted by Jim. Domi could only stand helplessly on the side, deeply blaming himself for not leaving the elf behind. The elf exposed by Jim remained unruffled. The great King Garo. "Please forgive me, a humble and worthless person, for rashly questioning your abilities." "Stop, stop, stop. Don't pile on your flowery words. If you keep talking like this, I could make you sick. Stand up and speak properly." When Elf stood up, she still looked calm and composed as she explained. "The reason for doing this is quite simple. I just want to confirm Jim's abilities and whether he is worthy of my loyalty." After all, for thousands of years, she had never heard of a human becoming the master of an underground labyrinth. Her answer did intrigue Jim. Completely ignoring the gnashing teeth of Domi next to her, she continued speaking with an air of self-importance in that moment just now. "I confirm that I am unable to harm you in battle." Jim also said this with interest. "Do you already recognize me now?" Since the conversation has started, Jim no longer dwells on this matter. Being able to subdue a rebellious subordinate, he also feels a little proud in his heart. In subsequent inquiries, he learned that Lisa's skills are in investigation, searching, and collecting information. It perfectly meets Jim's current needs, so he decisively recruited her. This decision made Domi extremely anxious. In her eyes, Jim's actions were too hasty. "Isn't there still you, the big boss, watching on the side? What tricks can an elf like her come up with?" he said, and then turned around, taking Lisa to visit the labyrinth. Lisa also gave Domi a sly smile that succeeded in her scheme. This drove Domi crazy. She felt that the chief's position was in jeopardy. She secretly made up her mind. She must expose Lisa's true identity as a spy. But as they walked along, Lisa couldn't help but frown. The core of the labyrinth, left unguarded here, is exposed to the outside. Inadequate management system and haphazard martial arts training. What puzzles Lisa the most is that there is actually a rotating rest day system in place here. At the same time, she also found out that the production capacity of Garo Labyrinth is low. Velvet gem obtained from mines and field outings. Apart from daily expenses, the production capacity is now left with only 3 poor-quality gems. The whole Garo Labyrinth is basically just scraping by to meet basic needs. It's a struggling, declining force. All of this made Lisa speculate. This so-called Garo Labyrinth It surely won't last long in the underground labyrinth surrounded by strong enemies. After the three of them circled around, they returned to the bar. Jim then asked Lisa about her opinion on the labyrinth. After a moment of silence, Lisa spoke up with a surprising statement. Do you know that within a distance of 4 days' journey from you lies a powerful labyrinth ruled by the Flood Dragon King, rumored to have existed before the Geyser War, and to be the only surviving overlord? Upon hearing this, Jim suddenly realized his Garo labyrinth. They are nothing but ants before such a powerful labyrinth overlord. No need to think, it can be certain. The opponent's army is unmatched in terms of both scale and quality. In terms of quantity, the opponent is undoubtedly overwhelming Garo labyrinth. And Lisa also pointed out that Flood Dragon King seems to be aware of the existence of Garo labyrinth. This inevitably made Jim furrow his brows and think. According to the law of the jungle, weak labyrinths are often raided and absorbed by powerful labyrinths. Remembering childhood on the 12th floor, their group of labyrinth babies are always enslaved and used to dig tunnels to attack other labyrinths. It is precisely because of those days of digging tunnels he witnessed numerous battles of labyrinth monsters with his own eyes. Suddenly he realized greatly the reason Flood Dragon King has not attacked them yet. He must have encountered obstacles on the front line. When they break through the front line, it will be the time when Flood Dragon King launches a massive attack. Jim's deduction suggests. Lisa also recalled that between the Flood Dragon King and the Garo labyrinth, there is indeed another labyrinth ruled by the Vermilion Panther. While the Flood Dragon King once mobilized forces trying to devour the Vermilion Panther's labyrinth, for some unknown reason, it failed in the end. Based on the information provided by Lisa, Jim became even more certain of his deduction. The Flood Dragon King has not yet obtained the front line to attack the Garo labyrinth. At the same time, in order to avoid unnecessary complications, he will definitely take a detour to bypass the Vermilion Panther's territory. This back and forth leaves Garo labyrinth with at least 2 months of preparation time. It doesn't seem too bad for now. But Lisa seems to know more than I had imagined. Lisa did not hide anything about this either. She admitted that she had indeed worked for the Flood Dragon King. Domi finally seized the opportunity. This elf of unknown origin. She must be a spy sent by the other side to gather information. Unexpectedly, Lisa also retorted, stating that she is just a mercenary and is only doing things for money. Now she is employed by the King of Garo, so she will not betray the employer during the employment period. We elves value promises as important as our lives. Jim also timely interrupted their argument and formally assigned Lisa her first task after being hired. Firstly, she will need to apply all that she has learned and experienced in the Flood Dragon King labyrinth. She needs to describe every detail meticulously. Next, she needs to go out to investigate and make sure to find out the number of enemy troops and their direction of movement. Finally, she can use her identity as a mercenary to infiltrate their ranks. After all, they have hired you before, so their guards will be lower. Don't worry about the issue of payment. The price I offer will definitely satisfy you. An elf with long ears is trying espionage for the first time in 50 years. But even she didn't expect. She was exposed right at the beginning. These days, Domi has already gotten used to reporting Elf Lisa's situation punctually every day. The little elf that Master keeps has left with some food, saying that they are going to investigate intelligence. It was nice to accompany her in acting for a few days. It's time for us to start preparing. Upon hearing this, Domi felt confused but couldn't help but remind again, because she always felt that Elf must be hiding something. The timing of Elf's appearance has already aroused Jim's suspicion. The labyrinth, which is weak and on the verge of war, is not a good place to seek refuge. So he was sure she had ulterior motives at that time. He suspected that she was spying on military information for the Flood Dragon King. So he decided to use a trick within a trick. He took her on a tour of the Garo labyrinth. He tried his best to show her the fact of our vulnerability to a single blow. Upon hearing this, Domi couldn't help but feel shocked. Master, why is this happening? While she hasn't gone far yet. I immediately send out Berserker to bring her back and chop her. Unexpectedly, she was stopped by Jim. What I want is for her to bring the message back. Remember, wars are fought with financial and military power. At that time, they will make a wrong assessment of our fighting numbers. And they will know that we have no Jim reserves whatsoever. In this upcoming war, we have no choice but to fight in fear and trembling. Domi was even more confused after hearing Jim's explanation. Because as Jim described, this is indeed the truth about the Garo Labyrinth. Indeed. But I also got the information I wanted from Lisa. She mentioned that the Flood Dragon King is powerful enough to be immune to all kinds of attacks. But he is very afraid of humans. Just because he heard that humans have a weapon that can kill him. That's why he has been lurking deep in the labyrinth, avoiding conflicts with humans. Since the Flood Dragon King fears human weapons, I must prepare well in that case. I will await his arrival respectfully. By the way, I told Lisa at the time, we will have 2 months to prepare. It's also to deceive her. These days you must strengthen and expand the patrol range. I guess they should be arriving soon. I will be able to bring back the gift in 3 days. Jim said, then he walked through the space crack, leaving a bewildered Domi behind. The next morning, Claire was awakened by a phone call from Jim. Jim didn't waste any time either. He immediately asked Claire to repay the debt of saving his life on the 2nd floor of the labyrinth. Time passed quickly, and another week went by. As Jim expected, a vanguard team sent by the Flood Dragon King has already reached near the Garo Labyrinth. The enormous and powerful physique makes the Garo Guard look like a child in front of it. After taking out the Garo Guard, the leading yellow dragon made a move. He was gloating on the side, showing off his sharp tongue. His subordinates, on the other hand, were unfazed. They whispered to each other, "Here he goes again!" When passing through the territory of the Vermilion Panther earlier, he didn't dare say a word and ran faster than anyone else. He's just a coward who claims to be a descendant of the Dragon Clan every day. The yellow dragon seemed to have heard the whispers of his subordinates. He looked around to locate the source of the sound. Just now, he was scheming behind his subordinates. Suddenly, he put on a flattering expression, praising the boss as mighty and radiating a green aura of power. The praise boosted Yellow Dragon's spirits and motivation greatly. He boasted that he would sit on the throne of the Garo Labyrinth and have a big feast at noon. This scene made the subordinates unable to help but start whispering, "I told you so." Those with fully developed cerebellums do not have this symptom. At this moment, Yellow Dragon made a new discovery. Baby Snake also realized the danger and quickly turned around to escape. Yellow Dragon couldn't let it get away. He was worried that there was no one to show him the way. He immediately called his subordinates to chase after. Just as they cornered Garo Baby Snake with no way out, suddenly a mutation occurred. A figure flashed in front of its eyes. Originally within reach, Garo Baby Snake disappeared on the spot. The sudden change made Yellow Dragon unable to help but exclaim in surprise. At this time, a faint voice came through. The descendants of the Dragon Clan would also be in such a panic. Shouting and screaming, are they? Who is tarnishing the reputation of the Dragon Clan? Quickly reveal your name. Jim's eyes suddenly sharpened as he turned to look. I believe I am the chief of your Garo. Jim's appearance made the Yellow Dragon group somewhat flustered. I suggest that the Yellow Dragon group retreat immediately and report back. Who would have thought that the Yellow Dragon group would start showing off on the spot, in the name of being descendants of the Dragon Clan, clamoring to have a one-on-one fight with Jim? Upon hearing the term, descendants of the Dragon Clan, Jim's brain swelled. It turns out he had been pursuing the Yellow Dragon group all along. He has heard this term no less than 50 times during this period. At this point, he can't bear it anymore. He gave instructions to Domi behind him to take action. In an instant, dozens of small heads emerged from the surrounding cliffs. They are those usually unnoticed Garo baby snakes. What is terrifying is that they are now all equipped with Thunderbolt shield scatterguns in hand. Yellow Dragon realized the danger at this moment, even if he was very foolish. Little did he expect that he would straighten his waist and muster up his courage to shamelessly confront Jim on a moral level. He even let the shaky-handed laborer get involved in the terrifying war. His words completely angered the honorable Domigaro people. How could this foolish lizard criticize and interfere? She can no longer hold back the Gatling gun in her hand. It's going to fire. The next second, following Domi's command, dozens of guns and cannons were all fired at once, mercilessly venting their anger towards the Yellow Dragon. This is the most stylish descendant of the Dragon clan in the underground labyrinth. He is gradually lost in the adoring gaze of his subordinates. He remains calm in the face of dozens of spears and guns alone. He fantasizes about using his strong personal charm to make his opponents put down their weapons, kneel down, and sing surrender. Unexpectedly, the opposite happened. He successfully angered the girl holding the Gatling gun. Following Domi's command, Garo's baby snake fired their shotgun in response. In an instant, a relentless barrage of indiscriminate gunfire poured down. Facing the whistling bullets rushing towards it, Monster was in a panic but still unafraid. They naively believed that human weapons could not cause substantial harm to it. However, the next second it was shot in the head. The severe pain in his head and the gushing blood filled him with intense fear. Just as he was about to turn and retreat, he found that his escape route had already been blocked by the Garo guard. They could only huddle, holding their heads in resignation, and endure the hail of bullets. Jim quietly watched the scene before him. Deep in his heart, he silently appreciated Claire's life-saving grace. It was truly generous. It turned out that 2 days ago Jim made a phone call. Claire had a truckload of weapons delivered to him in the afternoon. Jim couldn't help but admire Claire's connections. At the same time, Claire was also puzzled by Jim's actions. Jim just said he was prepared and didn't say much more. From the current situation on the field, it can be seen that firearms do have limited killing power against the monster. But it can make Garo Baby Snake become a true warrior. Join the war. He turned his head and looked at Domi, who was having a great time playing next to him, and felt even more reassured. However, there was always an unexpected occurrence. He found that the bullets were unable to cause any damage to the Yellow Dragon. Just at that moment, the Yellow Dragon himself also realized this situation. He thought it was an illusion. He turned his head to look at his subordinates, each one brutally beaten, with cries of agony echoing continuously. He was pleasantly surprised all of a sudden. He then switched to self-appreciation mode, displaying a proud and self-satisfied demeanor. This made Domi grind her teeth in anger. She aimed at the Yellow Dragon and started firing wildly. On the other hand, the Yellow Dragon struck a pose amidst the pouring rain of bullets. The appearance of playing with one's hair and striking poses. This made the Garo guard unable to resist drawing his sword and stepping forward to chop him. I never expected that at the moment of touching the Yellow Dragon, the sword would also be broken. This immediately terrified the Garo guard. This moment of distraction was seized by the Yellow Dragon. He was knocked flying by a punch. Then he fiercely provoked Domi. Domi, who was already agitated, couldn't bear it. He immediately shouldered the RPG and aimed it towards Yellow Dragon. She was stopped by Jim. Just because he became interested in Yellow Dragon. Without hesitation, he quickly leaped behind Yellow Dragon. Then his figure swiftly moved like a ghost to the front of Yellow Dragon. He swung his knife towards the neck. Unexpectedly, Yellow Dragon bit his waist and avoided it. The sudden turn of events left Jim wide-eyed and incredulous. Unexpectedly, before Jim could steady himself, Yellow Dragon had already borrowed the momentum of straightening up. His arms enveloping the fierce momentum suddenly smashed down. Jim immediately flipped and leaped to the side. He took the opportunity to move around to the back and aimed for the back of the head with a slash. The sound of metal and stone clashing rang out. Yellow Dragon was hit, and let out a loud roar. However, Jim was extremely frustrated. If this didn't break through the defense, what was the point in continuing to fight? He suddenly unleashed a powerful dragon tail sweep. Jim immediately blocked it with a horizontal sword. He was still knocked several meters away by the powerful blow. Domi couldn't help but worry about Jim's miserable condition. But fortunately, Jim quickly emerged from the smoke and dust. This guy is tough. His physique probably doesn't give much ground to even the infernal spider. Although his intelligence is not there, his combat awareness is shocking. He always seizes the opportunity to launch a fierce counterattack against me. At the thought of this, his right eye unknowingly lit up with a red light, sweeping towards Yellow Dragon. At the same time, he exerted force beneath his feet, vigorously kicked, and wielded his sword to attack. Before Yellow Dragon could react, he only felt several sword lights flashing past. Jim has already performed a set of smooth and quick combo moves. He still failed to leave a single wound on Yellow Dragon's body. Is this guy really without any weaknesses? Even the spy eye enhanced by Parasite couldn't find a weakness. While Jim was distracted, Yellow Dragon's punch full of anger came crashing down. Suddenly, a red light flashed across the area between Yellow Dragon's scapula and neck. This discovery left him no time to dodge. He was solidly hit by Yellow Dragon. Witnessing Jim being injured by Yellow Dragon, Domi was instantly thrown into a state of panic. Suddenly, the dense smoke and dust were shattered by a blast of air wave. Jim is holding a long knife. The momentum swirling around his body, he steps out slowly. His crimson right eye flickers with a bloodthirsty red light. Terrifying scars appear along his right cheek as well. Yellow Dragon seemed to sense Jim's terrifying killing intent as well. The momentum emanating from him surged instantly, causing people to shudder uncontrollably. At the same time, inside the Flood Dragon King's labyrinth, Elf Lisa cautiously walked through the trap-laden passageway. She indifferently passed by the laborers working themselves to exhaustion along the road in the labyrinth. She held an even greater disdain towards Jim, the leader of the Garo labyrinth, because the cruelty in front of her was the true image that a labyrinth should have. Lisa came before the Flood Dragon King and knelt down, just as Jim had expected. She truthfully reported everything she had seen and heard in the Garo labyrinth to the Flood Dragon King, with the plan to obtain the precious velvet gem as a reward. She went to persuade Jim to attack the territory of the Vermilion Panther a week later. When both sides were weakened, the Flood Dragon King would take advantage of the situation and seize control of the Garo labyrinth in one fell swoop. The Flood Dragon King was very pleased with Lisa's plan and ordered the main forces to set out for the Garo labyrinth tomorrow. He has not initiated a territory war for a long time. His warlike bloodline has made him somewhat impatient at this point. This is a monster with ancient Dragon Clan bloodline. He not only possesses unimaginable combat instincts, his defense is equally astounding. The hard scales are not afraid of swords and axes at all. Even in the face of Gatling's sweeping fire, he still exudes charm, like a spring breeze brushing the face. The situation of being passively beaten has thoroughly angered Jim. He maximized the power of Spy Eye. He did find a weakness behind the Yellow Dragon as expected. Suddenly, electric arc surrounded him, as he attempted to launch a fatal strike against the Yellow Dragon. The Yellow Dragon seemed to sense the approaching overwhelming hostility. The momentum on his body also suddenly surged and churned. His transformation heightened Jim's killing intent. He couldn't hold back and took the initiative to make a move, slashing towards Yellow Dragon like lightning with a knife in hand. Unexpectedly, facing his attack, Yellow Dragon remained motionless. He let the sharp blade chop on his body. At this moment, though he took the hit, but he still couldn't inflict substantial damage on Yellow Dragon. However, Jim's goal had been achieved, because Yellow Dragon's weakness lies on the scapula behind its back. At the same time, he was puzzled by Yellow Dragon's motionless behavior. He couldn't help but suspect that Yellow Dragon deliberately exposed its weakness and set a trap. However, this thought only flashed by momentarily. He would not give up the opportunity for a decisive victory in front of him. He immediately kicked the ground violently to borrow the force of rebound and swiftly shot towards Yellow Dragon. However, what Jim didn't know was that Yellow Dragon had long been scared to the point of sweating profusely. The feeling of being watched when Jim took a step behind him earlier. It made him feel even more that his weaknesses had been exposed. For a moment, he felt a horrifying shiver running through his body. At this moment, he had already sensed Jim's movements behind him. Even though he was scared to the point where his heart was in his throat, he still didn't dare to move. The moment the blade cut through flesh, the pain spread throughout the entire body. Suddenly, it made him extremely scared, with his hair standing on end. The gushing blood made him incredulous. This might be the first time he had ever been injured in his life. Suddenly, an indescribable sense of life and death crisis rose behind him. Instinctively, the survival consciousness made him bow down with his head in his hands instantly, barely avoiding Jim's sudden deadly strike. He begged loudly for mercy, claiming that he was just a mercenary, and was deceived and forced to come by the Flood Dragon King. This cowardly appearance immediately dampened Jim's enthusiasm to kill it. But this created another problem. Originally, killing the Yellow Dragon would resolve everything. However, how should we handle this guy if he begs for mercy? You should know that usual attacks can't even hurt him at all. Since it's so hard to decide, Domi suggests just killing him to make things easier. Jim also seems to think it's a good suggestion. The master and servant echo each other. This terrified Yellow Dragon on the side. He hastened to show his loyalty, and decided to switch allegiances. He wants to pledge allegiance to the Garo Labyrinth. However, such an easy act of betrayal and switching sides. How can Jim easily believe it? Seeing this, the Yellow Dragon immediately vowed solemnly, swearing in the name of the Dragon Clan to never betray. With the Yellow Dragon's vow, a dazzling light suddenly radiated from his body. However, this scene was considered by Jim as a trickery to deceive. He angrily raised his hand to draw his sword, intending to kill him on the spot. Unexpectedly, Domi spoke up to stop him at this moment, because she realized that just now was a genuine oath of the Dragon Clan. Once the oath is broken, the retribution will be the curse of friendship, death, and extreme pain. Even if this guy is just a mixed-blood dragon of impure lineage. But the oath remains valid. The Yellow Dragon saw Domi speaking for him. The hanging heart was finally put down. Little did they know, Jim had already figured out the perfect way to deal with the Yellow Dragon. Since this guy has a tough hide, and is as strong as the Flood Dragon King, then it's a good opportunity to test the effectiveness of standard anti-tank shells. So the poor Yellow Dragon was bound up like this, playing the role of a live target. Before firing, Jim also warned the Yellow Dragon not to dodge in order to ensure the effectiveness of the test. Otherwise, it would be considered as betrayal. Without waiting for the Yellow Dragon to react, he fired the cannonball straight away. A violent explosion made the Yellow Dragon faint on the spot. It seems that this guy is not that strong either. He collapsed with just one shot. Lisa happened to come back at this time and witnessed this horrifying scene. Jim tentatively asked Lisa if she knew the Yellow Dragon. Lisa actually bluntly admitted it. She then mentioned that they only met a few times because of their different job responsibilities. To avoid arousing suspicion from Lisa, Jim did not delve deeper into this issue. Instead, he asked if Lisa already knew about the Flood Dragon King's itinerary and direction. Lisa lied, saying that the Flood Dragon King had already gathered his forces. He probably won't besiege the city until about a month later. The time left for us to prepare is too short, based on our daily production capacity of 3 low-grade gems. We are unable to recruit enough soldiers to deal with the war. So we need a large number of gems to recruit soldiers. Take advantage of this opportunity. Lisa proposed to Jim a plan to first conquer the Vermilion Panther, emphasizing that this seemingly risky plan is the only way to obtain a large number of gems at the moment. she also kindly reminded Jim. First, spend a week collecting gems to recruit more soldiers before conquering the Vermilion Panther. After all, the Vermilion Panther is not easy to deal with. And if this battle fails, not to mention dealing with the army of the Flood Dragon King. To cooperate, Domi also pretended to agree with the plan proposed by Lisa. In that case, Jim suggested that Lisa first sketch out the route to the Vermilion Panther territory. After sending off Lisa, Jim instructed Domi to intensify patrols around the labyrinth. Then, in a hurry, Jim also left a certain location in the Garo Labyrinth underground labyrinth. Jim took out the map of levels 1 to 3 of the labyrinth. He imported all of them into the control system. As the control system scans and captures, he successfully located the gem hidden on the 3rd floor of the labyrinth. He then activated the spy eye enhanced by the parasite. This time he plans to make a big move. He used the spy eye's ability to detect gems, planning to sweep through like a locust plague. He intends to dig out all the gems along floors 1 to 3 on the way. He is really a ruthless person who acts as he says. Instantly transfer the strong energy to the legs. He dashed towards the 3rd floor of the labyrinth. Wherever he passed by, any location hiding a gem, even the most remote corners, were all swiftly collected by him.